G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. This is a continuation of a demonstration I did at the Bonsai Society of Victoria where I had this piece of material where I really bent it and really compacted it down. It had that lot of heavy gauge wire on it, and then I used a guy wire to get it closer and bring it in. It was up here before, out here, and I've gradually pulled it back round and down into a much more compact tree. I used a clamp to bring it right down and bring it nice and close. And now it's looking more like a smaller tree at least. Now, if you can have a look in there, you'll see there's a trunk line in there. And this tree was, as I said, was out here. Now it's sort of cranked right down. This branch here was up here. So I've got it all the way down into this spot right here. So now I'm going to go through and kind of style the tree and find the tree within the tree. It looks like a nice smaller tree now already, which is good. What am I going to do? Am I going to keep everything? Am I going to trim things back? Where am I going to put things? But I'm going to start to try and build the tree into a nice bonsai shape, more of a juniper shape. As I mentioned, there is a lot of heavy wire on that tree, which is good. A lot of guy wires already in place, so they're holding all the twists that I put in place. I've wired all the main branches previously, which is good. Now I've only got the sub branches to wire. Now, because I've got the guy wires already in the tree, it's good that I've already wired all the main branches, because otherwise it would be way too difficult to put wire on the tree with the guy wires. So always, you got to think ahead a little bit. Make sure your branches are wide before you apply guy wire. All right, so I'm just going to start the process of trying to create something here today. I'll probably have to start here on the lowest branch. I'm going to try and set it in position and then see what else I can work with. I'm going to have to do a lot of wiring, fine wiring that is, to try and get a lot of these smaller branches in place to really get the tree looking good. I really want to get it to a point where I'm going to keep the branches I'm keeping are what I'm keeping. So there's no decision required any further. I do think maybe in here is the initial front. All the branches are placed really well alongside each angle from this side, from this angle. So there's nice branches on this side, nice branches that way, back and the top. So it's looking the best in this direction, but we'll see how it comes out. I don't think it's going to change much from this angle. So I'm going to first start wiring, positioning this branch, and then getting it sorted. Now, just to take you through the example, this branch was quite long before. Now, what I've done is I'm trying to compact it by bringing it in on itself and then bring it in on itself, back around and so on, and get it looking really nice and compact and tight, because eventually that will just form a nice big pad of foliage. Now, because I've compacted it all, it's all quite bushy. So it's all bushy, things are going down and so on. So I really have to go through now and just eliminate anything that I think is not going to be good in the useful end of the design. Now, anything weak, I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to have a look at anything growing down. Now, usually I can wire them back up, but if there's too many growing down, I don't need them all. And if I can wire them back up, that's awesome. So I'll think about wiring them back up. So just going through the tree, eliminating obviously the things firstly going down. And when you compact it on itself, it's going to have what's called inside the curve. So when you've got a curve like this, the growth grows inside that curve. So you've got to kind of eliminate that as well. So it's a little bit hard because it's very compact. I've compacted the tree quite heavily in that area. So I have to really be careful what I'm going to cut in here. I don't want to cut too much, otherwise there's no branches left. But I can't have all that compact, that crushed, it's almost crushed, that is. So sometimes I've got to take it back off, extend it out, go in and try and eliminate anything in that crotch. I'm cutting the branch off, as I always mentioned. Don't just take the foliage off, take the branch. That's a lot better. That's cleared up quite a bit. Make sure I got it all. I'll come back in. Background. So slowly getting through it. Now, that's just wanted to show you that. That's pretty much what I'm going to do for every branch that I'm going to wire. But I'm going to take you through slowly. We'll go through it all. I'll wire this branch and show you how it looks in its final position. So let me just give you a quick update now. I've wired this branch out. Now, I want to give you a closer view of how I've done this so you can actually understand how I build a branch, especially at this early stage. Now, as you know, everything underneath comes off. Some of the small stuff I don't really wire, it's too small. But when you twist, so I'm twisting the branch in like that and in like that and in like that. So they're actually, when there's no room, so when you're coming into a tight corner, right, I was saying you got to remove the foliage inside that corner. Like anything on the inside of that is going to be pushing in on itself. So you got to remove it all. Now I've used branches further back, so there's nothing inside here now. So there's no branches inside that curve. So you can probably just see inside that curve there's nothing, right? So I've used branches that are on the actual branch behind it, brought them in to make another pad in covering that area. So I've compacted the branch, removed everything on the inside, and used branches further back to cover that spot. So, but it also creates another layer. So you're building layers upon layers. So it's a nice little trick to remember. So also up here, I brought one that's higher up to make another pad, things like that. And it's formed a nice kind of arrow. You can kind of see the arrow shape that it's forming now. That's how you go about it. It's very straightforward. I mean, it's just also quite common sense. You know, if you've got a big curve like that, all the foliage is going to be pushing in itself. It's not going to work. So removing that foliage and then using the outside foliage to build the pad is how you go about doing it. So I've done that for the first branch. Now I'm just working my way around, so I'm up to the back, and I'm following the same process, eliminating anything on the inside of curves. Again, you can see how much I've trying to compact that branch right back. Because once this foliage pad fills out, even that one fills out, you're not going to see this heavy branch being twisted. You just see foliage pads. So that's a nice little thing to remember, okay? So I'm just going to keep going, keep wiring, and we'll keep progressing with the tree. So a bit of an update where I'm at. I've begun, obviously, wiring the tree from here, and I actually did some of the back branches as well. And if you can see, I'm actually wiring the probably, you know, presumption of this is the apex at the moment, somewhere in here. I haven't put these in place, I've wired it. The reason I did this, usually I don't do that. Usually I'll work on this side and work my way up to the apex. Now, the reason I've done that is, as I was working up the tree, I found it was starting to become a bit boring, this tree. Because if I left these branches where they are, it will just be not a big full tree. And I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense when you've got this huge twisted trunk and then a very structured tree. I mean, I like how this branch is happening. I like probably this apex coming in, but this side is bothering me. It's quite heavy and cumbersome. So I'm trying to think of how to make it more dynamic, this tree. So by now putting in the apex where it's going to sit, I'm looking at, you know, how the tree could look like and could look more dynamic. So I've wired the majority of the branches, and I just want to show you all I do then is drop the branches in place and pluck underneath any with branches. So I start to drop everything, you know, twist them up and drop them where they can be, make pads, and work my way up the tree. I mean, that's really what I do to create an apex. Now that I've kind of put an apex in, kind of a rounded apex, I'll fix this. I'm going to try and figure out a more dynamic tree with this foliage. Now, initially, as I said to you, I wanted a long part in here, but I'm thinking maybe I can have a shorter part with more gin in this area. So nice, maybe a smaller tree here with gins around the place. So kind of be something a bit more exciting and interesting rather than, you know, if I left all this on, it just doesn't explain why the big curve in the tree, big curve in the trunk. You know, I want to explain that a bit more. Like if you have a full foliage, perfect, and then you have a really twisted trunk, kind of doesn't make sense. So, all right, just so I keep you updated. The apex has been wired and put in. Now I've used another branch, quite a heavy branch that was coming over here, and created a pad in the front in this area. So if I turn it to the side, you can see It's quite nice, three-dimensional over here and into here. Now we play, you know, there's a bit of a, if I hide all this, you can kind of see the tree it's becoming. But there's a bit of a gap in here, so I've got a couple of small branches which I'll wire into place in here. The beauty of Shimpaku is the branches are so flexible, especially at a young age. They can really twist them up and put them in spots wherever you want them. That's what I've pretty much done with most of the branches, really twisted them back and up and really put them anywhere I wanted, so it's really good. Alright, so I tried to show you with a towel by covering the foliage that's still there, what the tree is going to look like. I do like it. I think it's more dynamic and more interesting. I just want to show you the actual foliage that will stay, so you can see where my thinking is at. It looks more interesting, more dynamic, more thought-provoking, I guess. Much nicer. It actually shows how simplified the tree is, much more condensed. I do like it. I was thinking maybe we could use one more branch in here, possibly, but I think it's okay. It doesn't probably need it. I think over time this will just be nice flowing in this direction, shorter on this side, flowing in this direction, with jins on this side. So, and this is all the. Now I'm going to take this off and show you how much foliage there is. So it looks a bit confusing now. So here's how much confusion there is. I mean, you could keep it and try and condense it, but yeah, I'm not convinced. So start cutting off some of these branches. This little small one. Just trying to leave the main trunks. Just cutting these ones off totally. No good, a bit too lanky. So we're starting to see things happen. There's a nice jin there, obviously. Keep going. So if there's any nice cutting material, I'll try and put that aside, leave that aside over there. The rest goes in the rubbish pretty much. If it's too small, I don't bother. Now you can see how long they are. We'll have to decrease them and make them smaller. So I will keep that little one in there just to keep it safe, give you some back branching. So it might be okay there. I'll work that out. I'll just get rid of this big one now. So yeah, that one there, I'm just going to put a back branch in the back there, just to give me some sort of dimensions and depth. Now I'll have to gin all there. I'm going to take this wire off and I'm going to gin them and compact them, and hopefully I'll make something really nice in terms of jins in this area. So I think it's a much more interesting tree now, and the reason why I wanted to get rid of this side of the tree, I think it looks a lot better. So I'm just going to take this wire off, gin the branches, and then wire it back on. Put the wire back on so I can contort them. They're a bit too wide. I want to push more in. So by doing that, I should be able to get nice compact jins. So all three, these big three, actually are the most important. And I'll have a look how I can put them all together, and I'll finish wiring a little one at the back as well, which gave me a bit more depth, which I needed. So here's the final product after all that work. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it gives it nice direction now with the tree. Obviously the tree needs to fill out and, really look a lot better in terms of the pads and so on, but at least the shape's all there and the movement's there, and I'm really happy with how it's all now much more twisted and compacted as well. It kind of tells a story of, the big twisting trunk and the twisting branches. It's all quite interesting and quite dynamic, and looks like it's a tree that's struggled for a while in nature and then is now recovering well. So obviously I've ginned these, I've made jins of these branches. I've wired them into place, so then eventually I'll be able to take that wire off and it'll hold. You can wire freshly ginned branches. They'll hold, so they're still fresh and supple. So when they dry, they'll form that. They'll kind of form that position. So just a nice little spin around. I think having this little back branch here is nice. It gives a bit more depth, so that's important. So so as I said again, this tree I did started I should say, at the Bonsai Society of Victoria demonstration I did not a few weeks back, and now I finished it off with quite a few hours of work to get it all looking good. I think it's come out beautiful. I think it's a much more interesting tree now. Probably give it I'll probably give it a season in this pot before I repot. I'll see how it pulls through after all this work. I don't want to rush the repot, so no real rush in that. And eventually it'll be a nice pot, nice little tree, quite dynamic and quite interesting. So really all it was really compacting and twisting up the branches, and then selecting the ones I kept much more. The amount of branching to the trunk also looks good. It's not too much branching, so it looks quite nice. All right, guys, happy for you to ask me any questions, comments, etc. I'm free to answer. Thanks, guys, for watching, and see you next time.